A second example that had a piecewise function with 3 pieces. It's very similar to the other video with 2 pieces, but I just wanted to give you just one more example. All right, so let me jump into this. This has 3 pieces, so we're going to need 3 tables. But before I jump to the tables, I want to go through and look at the inequalities to determine whether or not they're going to be open or closed circles. So this very first piece, it says x has to be less than or equal to 0. So this is going to have, oops, that's not the color I want. This is going to have a closed circle here because it's less than or equal to. As long as it has an equal to, it has a closed circle. The second part, this is going to have an open circle at 0, and it's going to have a closed circle at 3. So I'm already just taking care of that. And then the very last one, x has to be greater than 3, so this is going to be an open circle. So I've already taken care of that part. Now I'm going to go and do the tables. So this is going to be x, f of x. So I'm going to start with 0 because that's one of the boundaries, and you should always use the points that they give you for the x values. Okay, and then I need a second point, and it has to be less than 0, so I'm just going to put a -1. Once I do that, I'm going to use this piece of the function to come up with the output. So when the input is 0, the output is going to be a -6. When the input is a -1, the output is also going to be a -6. So let's go graph that piece. So I'm going to go to 0 and -6, which is going to be right here, and it's going to be a closed circle. And then I need to plot a -1 and -6 is just going to be right here. So I put a little dot there, and then I'm going to draw a horizontal line that just goes out to -infinity. That's what that part of the graph looks like. Now I'm going to move over to the second piece, and I'm going to do x, f of x. Let me clean this up a little bit because I think we're going to need that space. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these two numbers. I'm going to use 0, and then I'm going to use 3. Once I have those two inputs, I'm going to use this piece of the function to evaluate it. So it's going to be a -1/3 times 0 minus 6, which is going to be 0 minus 6, which is just going to be a -6. And then the second input, a -1/3 times 3 minus 6. So this is going to be a -1 minus 6. So it's going to be a -1 minus 6, which is a -7. I've got my 2 points. Now I'm just going to go plot them. So a 0, a -6. So I go here. Now there's already a point there that's a closed circle. So I'm going to leave it closed because closed circles take precedence. And then I'm going to go plot the other point. It says 3, a -7. So I'm going to go over to 3 and down to a -7. And I am going to put a closed circle here because it has a closed circle on the 3. All right, so now I am going to just connect those with a straight line, and that's what that looks like. Now I'm going to do the third table, the very last one. It's going to be x and f of x again, and I'm going to use this 3. So I start with 3, and the next number I need, it has to be greater than 3, so I'm just going to use 4. So, and then I'm going to use this part of the function, so it's going to be 2 times 3 minus 12. So that's going to be 6 minus 12, which is going to be a -6. And then I'm going to do 2 times 4 minus 12. That's going to be 8 minus 12, which is going to be a -4. Then I just go plot. These 2 points. So 3 and -6, I go over to 3, I go down. It's going to be right here, and it's going to be an open circle. It's got to be an open circle. If it were a closed circle, then it wouldn't be a function anymore because it wouldn't pass a vertical line test. Now let's go, we got 4 and -4, so I go over to 4 and I go down to a -4, and I'm just going to put a little dot there because I want to use that to draw my line through. And then I put an arrow on it because it's going to be going on forever. So that's what your graph looks like. You've got to pay attention to whether it's open or closed circles, and then you also got to know when you're going to need the arrows. But other than that, it's the same as what we did before. I hope this is helpful.